So you're thinking about applying to medical school, but you're not sure if your grades at MCAT are considered competitive enough. Before you spend the time and money on applications, let's take a deep dive into the data that's available and see what it really says about your chances of getting in. This video will not sugarcoat it. We'll talk about the minimum stats needed for MD and DO applicants and why these numbers don't guarantee your fate, but are predictive, and what exactly to do if you're below these stats. This is Montu Med. Welcome back to my channel. I'm currently a third-year medical student, hoping to give you guys some insights about the application process since it can be very vague. I am a data nerd, so I'm very excited about this video. Let's get right into it. The AAMC Table A23 is the holy grail for understanding how MCAT scores and GPAs affect your chances at MD schools. The bottom, there's two columns, acceptees and applicants. So between 2022 and 2025, there were just under 156,000 applicants, and the accepted number was just below 70,000. That puts you at an acceptance rate about 44.7%. However, that number can be very misleading since it does not account for the whole data. So let's take a deeper dive. If we look at the column for where it's a GPA 3.8 or higher and a MCAT of 517 or higher, the amount of applicants with these statistics were 13,375, and of those numbers, 11,185 got accepted. That's about an 84% acceptance rate for people with those stats. However, if we drop down to column between a 498, a 501 MCAT, and a GPA between a 3.4 and a 3.6, the acceptance rate drops to a 21%. That is greater than a 60% drop in the acceptance rate. Actually, even 70, as the columns here account for sub 500 and sub 3.5 GPA. So you're potentially sitting at a 10% acceptance rate if your MCAT is below a 500 and your GPA is below 3.5. So in this video, we will talk about how you can use this data to set your targets and your minimum goals and when to consider improving your stats before applying. Okay, let's take a step back and really understand what statistics are. Statistics come from entire populations and applicant pools. So they're population level trends, not individual data. They do not consider many factors, including your age, ethnicity, if you're a first gen student, if you are of a low economic status, if you're underrepresented in medicine, your background, or adversity, how much you have had to endure in your life. So these are all factors that the admissions committees do weigh very heavily. So these stats are just goalposts for you and not verdicts. Here's the bottom line though. If you're below a 3.5 GPA and a 5.05 MCAT for MD programs, or below a 3.4 GPA and a 500 MCAT for DO programs, your chances are slim. That does not mean you can't get in, but you're starting your journey on a steeper hill. Admissions committees absolutely consider these factors. So even if your stats are below average, a compelling personal story or unique background can absolutely help you beat the trends. These trends are meant to be broken. So please don't find this discouraging. These are just averages. They're not a death sentence. Okay, so what if you're below these thresholds? Don't panic. That does not mean it's over. Here's what you can do. One, consider retaking the MCAT. A 5 to 10% bump can move you from a risky applicant to a competitive applicant. I jumped 7 points within a month, and I will make a video about that later on. So stay tuned for that, but it is very possible and very doable. Two, look into post-bac or special master's programs. These are designed to boost your science GPA and show adcoms, admissions committees, that you can handle the rigor of medical school. Often, they have you sit in with classes with current medical students in their pre-clerkship courses. Three, consider taking a gap year or two. Did you know the average age for a matriculating first-year medical student here in the US is greater than 24? That means the majority of people are taking gap years, more than one perhaps. So it is completely fine and almost a trend now to take gap years. Many applicants take the time to build their GPA, retake the MCAT, build more clinical and research experiences, and get more hours before applying. And four is to strengthen your extracurriculars. That includes volunteering, shadowing, leadership, research, to name a few items. And with all this data, this reinforces the idea that you should be intelligent in what schools you apply to and picking your schools wisely. I would highly recommend the MSTAR database, which is the Medical Student Application Requirements database. It costs about $30 and it is almost a must for your applications. These provide all the statistics, also a spectrum in the range that people apply to their schools and the acceptance data as well. So definitely use this data in picking what schools you apply to and considering which schools you may not really have a shot at. You don't want to be wasting money here. Check out my other video for how much medical schools can cost and how you can save a lot of money in that process. You just don't want to be donating and throwing your money away at these schools that you might not have a shot at. Okay, putting it all together, MD programs are considered generally more competitive in regard to academics, with the average applicant having a 3.66 GPA and a 501.1 MCAT. That is just the applicant. The average matriculant, meaning they got accepted into medical school and will be attending the following year. The average MCAT was a 511.8 and the average GPA was near a 3.73. For DO programs, the average applicant MCAT was a 502 and a 3.58 GPA, with the matriculants being closer to a 5.35 MCAT and 3.61 GPA. Once again, these are just statistics. There are people with 515 plus MCATs at DO schools and sub 500 MCATs at MD schools. There's so many other factors that play a role in the application process. These numbers are just to provide you some gauge in what to aim for with your grades. Don't just apply DO if you have lower statistics, and don't just apply MD if you have high statistics. Make sure you fit the background, the mission, and the story fits each school and the degree's philosophy as well. For example, there may be a higher emphasis on service extracurriculars for osteopathic programs. Just do your research and make sure you be happy with that school's mission and environment. Let's wrap these up. These numbers are your goal numbers. They're not guarantees or absolute cutoffs. They're benchmarks that give you the best shot. And the higher up you go, there's a very high correlation with higher odds of you being accepted. These are just trends that show where most of these successful applicants land. If you're not there yet, don't panic, don't worry at all. Just keep on building your application. One part of the application can easily outweigh the others. You can absolutely still succeed in the process. Best of luck. I hope this video helps and gives you some truth behind the data and making sense of it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, drop a like. If you dislike the video, dislike the video. If you can subscribe, I would appreciate it. Hope to catch you on the next one. It's been Montu Med. Thank you so much for watching.